All right, and we are back here on Couch Coach Live on a Wednesday night edition here under the lights here on Couch Coach Live. What's going on, Mal?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Everything's good. You know, just another week, just grinding.
Yeah. Same here, man. Keep moving forward.
But yo, yeah, man, got a great show lined up for you guys tonight. It's funny. We were sitting here maybe a few weeks ago. We talked about Taylor Jenkins being let go. Now we got to talk about Mike Malone being fired. We'll talk about that. Definitely going to talk about UConn women's winning the Natty, Florida winning the Natty. Very interesting statement from the Grambling State head coach as far as the NIL payout. We'll definitely discussing it. There'll definitely be some interesting banter between the both of us regarding this topic. And we'll round out tonight's show with our game ball and final thoughts. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick that intro, and we'll be right back here on Couch Coach Live. Yes, and we're back here on Couch Coach Live. Yes, we do like Kashanta, guy Big Kirko. Hopefully you'll be in Cleveland and soon, but we shall we'll talk about that another time potentially. Well, we are back here on Couch Coach Live. Episode 336 is powered by SeatGeek. Head to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code CouchCoach to get yourself $20 off your next purchase with SeatGeek. So let's talk about first an interesting yet odd story. This was not on the production team's bingo card as during the beginning of the week, but on Tuesday, yesterday, Mike Malone, the Denver Nuggets head coach, was fired on Tuesday. He is the all-time winningest coach for the Denver Nuggets, and also General Manager Calvin Booth was fired as well. Mike Malone, we thought about him 2 years ago, winning the NBA championship just 2 years ago. And the firing comes at a point where there, at the time, was 3 games left in the regular season. This team was 47-32. And they are in a logjam in the Western Conference where for the third and the AC, the only separated by 2 games. So the governor of the Denver Nuggets did give a statement regarding essentially the reasoning as to the firing of said Calvin Booth and also Mike Malone. And pretty much he said in the quote, he added that the issues, and this is statement by Josh Kroenke, obviously, Stan Kroenke, the Kroenke family. So he said, and this is all of that taken into consideration, we wanted to try to figure out a way to potentially squeeze as much juice out of the rest of the season as possible. Kroenke said, I became comfortable with thinking of let's try to shake this tree and squeeze as much of it as we can. And he also stated that he added that the issues were masked by wins and Denver hit a recent slump. That Kroenke believed that the season would come to a disappointing end. Ownership didn't want an early playoff exit and believed in a deep playoff run was possible if opted to go in different directions. There was rumblings of changes in the offseason, but it felt is needed to be expedited, even if the timing wasn't ideal. Man, wow. What was your thoughts on Mike Malone being let go by the Denver Nuggets?
Shocked. I mean, shocked, but also not shocked. I think I'm more shocked of the time. The time that they did it is so close to the playoffs, and he's, I don't know, and he's their winningest coach. They've been through a lot. You know what I mean? Ups and downs. They're a very loyal team also, even though they didn't sign KCP and they didn't sign or Bruce Bowen. Is it Bruce Brown?
Bruce
Yeah,
Brown.
Bruce Brown. Yeah. They didn't sign up, but they're very still kind of loyal team to their cure. Like they stuck by Michael Porter Jr. where they could have let him go, And I mean, I got so much to say about this. It just seemed like I think a lot of bubble coaches, and they're all getting their head cut off. Like, and it's a lot of these coaches got championships, like the old the Bucks coach. You know what I mean? And we could sit there and dissect, say, well, if those teams didn't have injuries, they might have lost. You know what I mean? And he's the now coach for the Suns. And I mean, you could just go on and on. I remember if you go back and see any of our archives, I talked about how they were going to blow specific teams up. I think Utah and Denver and Portland was the three teams I was talking about. I said, man, if they don't start moving, they're going to blow it up. And I think Utah lost early. They beat the Clippers, I think. Anyway, don't even worry about that. Bottom line is, I'm shocked, but not shocked. I think if they didn't win that championship, they probably would have fired him a long time ago.
Yeah, the only thing I'm curious of the timing of it, and this is where it's like, even to the Kroenke statement, it's like, well, he wanted to make a splash like this, but it's too late to make a splash of this nature, especially in the fact you're like, let this play out. Let the rest of the season play out. In my personal opinion, you had 3 games left. You are in this logjam, as I mentioned earlier. The issue with me is, okay, you're losing 4 straight. You are at a point where I think you're now 5th, because I think the Clippers them bumped up. The timing of it was the worst, because I think to myself, like, if the team was already lost now in essentially game 79, who you think what the hell gonna happen with the rest of this season? If they haven't given up at this point, especially with so much at stake, who's gonna come in now and essentially have this team have this miraculous run to potentially the second round or the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals? It's not gonna happen. Like, this is the timing of it is just ridiculous. And I know, obviously, I figured that they probably wouldn't get rid of both of them, either one or the other, when the season was over, because obviously they have 2 different philosophies when it comes to building this team. Obviously, you just tell, even in and even looking at the moves that Boston has done, not Boston, but Denver has done, as far as getting rid of kind of those vets, and that kind of having this somewhat of a youth movement in Denver. So obviously that was a clashing of those 2 types of personnels. But to me, what was the point of it? Like, to me, if the way things are shaping up, because I still think they have a legitimate shot to beat the Clippers if they were to play Clippers in that 4-5 matchup. Even if the Clippers get a first round, if they have home court advantage for that first round series. So to me, and then you think to yourself, if you can get past the Clippers, God forbid something happened to OKC and somebody gets, it's injury or whatever, you can literally put yourself in the Western Conference Finals. So to me, the timing was all horrible, and I think Kroenke, that was just a crazy move to get rid of a guy. 3 games left, and you have a 4-game lose streak, and it's crazy because, like, yes, the winning match everything, but it's everything. Every team that goes through anything, they're gonna go through something. The winner is gonna match everything. That's just like you can say that for any championship team in the history of the NBA. Everybody had go through something. Like this is, so yes, winning is the ultimate deodorant. And how Denver was doing, and it's funny, like the timing of it. You won't get rid of him when it was rolling in February, right after the All-Star game, All-Star break, right? Because they was what, like 37. I forgot. They was rolling, and then all of a sudden they fall into this slump, and I'm just like, the timing of it, like, yeah, you could have, why you get rid of him earlier on, like that's one thing too, where it's like, because you knew at the time you couldn't do that. You couldn't get rid of a guy that was on the verge of winning. Like, I think they were like, God, what was their record? They were 37-19, February 20th. You're not getting rid of a coach that's 18 games over 500, but you just got rid of a guy that's 15 games over. So it's like, what was even the point of even doing this at this juncture of the season? I'm confused. I'm super duper confused.
To me, when you look at the Nuggets, because of Joker, they every year they look at them like they're going to win a championship, even though they only went to the finals once, right? And they only won one championship, and they wanted to get a play-in team. No disrespect to the, I love the play-in tournament, so no disrespect, but when you have a team like that that still has their core, and yes, Murray may be hurt, you're not supposed to do that. What you really to be doing, it is what it is. We might be in the play-in, we might be wherever we're going to end up being at, and you're supposed to be getting ready for the playoffs, because people are looking at you as as one of the teams that's most likely going to win a championship, even if you're in a slump right now. Once the playoffs start, the playoffs start. You know what I mean? It's 0-0. And I can't explain it. The messed up thing is I can easily be like, well, maybe they felt like they got the Joker, and the Joker made Michael Malone. Well, if you look at his stats and you look at his creed and everything else, his name is everywhere. Like literally, like at one time, I think 2013, they had him he was an assistant coach, I think, for the Warriors or something like that. And they named him, the general managers named him the assistant coach of the year. He was the highest assistant coach. So like once I seen all this, and then I seen that, some other stuff, I said, oh, he's highly respected. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's going on with these organizations getting rid of the guys that turned their franchise around. Taylor Jenkins, Mike Malone, the Milwaukee Bucks last year, getting rid of their coach, Monty Williams for the Suns. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's like new ownership or this and that. But they said these owners own a lot, and maybe they were just getting tired, or maybe there's some negative energy in there with the I think that's the GM and the coach, and they were just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Boom. Maybe they felt like this is starting to harper and hurt our team, and you guys aren't being professional, and you know what I mean? And it's like a cancer. You know what I mean? It's starting to get into the team. Whereas, did they release Russell Westbrook?
No, he's still there. He's still on the team.
Okay, I saw. You know how the internet is, but
yeah,
when you get Russell Westbrook, some of the stuff that they dealt with, that's part of it. You know what I mean? That's what happens. Sometimes he makes some bad decisions, but I'm bottom line though, I say this, so coach, they won a championship. The timing is bad, and I don't know if they're going to be able to recover from that regardless. And I will ask you this. Do you think they went to the Joker and asked him, was he comfortable with that, what they did?
Yeah. But
Did you hear me?
hello? You good?
I said,
No, I hear you.
I said, I got a question. Do you feel like they came to the Joker and asked him how does he feel if they fired Mike Malone?
I don't necessarily think people think that conversation was had.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think Jokic probably was like, he probably didn't care, but I definitely think if, I don't necessarily think he would, I wouldn't say he wouldn't care, but more so of a sense of, okay, they gonna let him go, okay, oh well, like that. I don't necessarily, and they have a good relationship. And I think it's just one of those with Denver, it's just more so of they thought that they hit their ceiling, which is weird because granted, yes, you might have hit your ceiling, but let the playoffs play it out. And like he said, well, I don't want a first round exit. But to me, you're setting yourself up for a first round exit because to me, if the locker room is already, it's pretty much already a moment where they're just not, the message is gone stale. Because obviously he lit into them the other day. Talk about, so I mean, he was frank and honest. And to me, it's like one of the things where it's just like, this is a championship contending type of team. Like, this isn't a team that's just, oh, yeah, we win 50 games every year, 56 games every year and get there. But you have won. Most of your core from the championship team still exists. So for you to kind of get these guys kind of riled up in this juncture of the season is crazy. And especially now, when you got so much to fight for, because you think to yourself, this stretch of these next 4 or 5 days can determine either you going to be potentially a third seed, or you might be in a play-in playing, either early next week instead of getting that rest and that playing until essentially the week of Easter. So this is it's crazy to me. Like, it's just beyond crazy to me. Like, for them to do this in this juncture, and it just makes you go to show you, like, damn, who in the hell is safe? Because I'm like, you think to yourself, okay, at this point, I thought Taylor Jenkins was a little weird, but this one takes the cake. Like, and I think I talked about this in a video I did yesterday. It's almost like at the NFL equivalent, it's almost like getting rid of Sean McVay the Wednesday of week 18 of NFL season. And he is and he's 11-7. He's about to go to the playoffs. He's 11-6 going to his final game. This is what the equivalent of this. This is like getting rid of a coach literally the week before the week of the final game of the regular season. And you look at it from an NFL standpoint. So think about it like that. If you want to do an NFL equivalent of what happened, which if that was to happen, the scenario I said, we all be like, how the hell you would fire Sean McVay?
Right.
In week 18. Because this is what this is for the NBA. This is the final week of the regular season.
Right. So, quick question. Yeah. So I see, okay, let's say the Knicks out third round, second round, or whatever, or just they underachieve and they fire their coach. I can really see him being from New York too. I can really see Mike Malone. He was an assistant too, being the next Knicks coach. Just want to throw that out there. I saw that. I said, "Oh yeah, that'd be good." Because them players is complaining.
That's where he need to go. And the other thing, and like you said, as far as the respecting, because I think when you talk about, obviously he's a coach's son. Obviously, he's Brendan Malone's son.
Right.
You know who I really want him to go? And I'm San Antonio. And because I'm not to kind of just some rumblings what I've been hearing in San Antonio, because we're really not 100% sure if Pop's gonna come back. I know
you don't need to.
Pop is still kind of he's still like rehabbing and what have you. But to me, that team is almost eerily similar to the personality he got in and that he had in Denver. And like you said, the Knicks also would be a good one as well too. Because obviously, that's another one where and the way things are going in this landscape, like everybody's liable to get fired. Like you would thought, I would have never thought that he would have got fired in this magnitude. I figured they were probably going to let him go if they would have had a disappointing year, which they deem it as even though he's 15 games over 500, and at the time of his firing, he was they had the fourth best. He was only a game and a half out of third place, which is just it's bizarre, So it is what it is, but you just ain't safe. I mean, hell, it used to be like you win the coach of the year, then you get fired the next year. Saying now, hell, you win championship and you out the very next year. Because remember, like was Avery Johnson was like that. He got coach of the year.
I was just thinking about that.
Dwayne Casey got fired right after winning the coach of the year. And then, now guys lose, winning championships and now losing. You look at like what Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, like guys in this century. Not the century, but this decade. Right. We talk about 2020 and present, except for like Joe Mazzulla. Right. I mean, you sit there and you think about it. Everybody's but
didn't Kenny Atkins didn't Kenny Atkins do good with the Brooklyn Nets and they got rid of him? And everybody was kind of shocked, like, why would y'all get rid of him?
Well, we knew
and he didn't have no superstar, right?
Remember he had that's the year they had Kevin Durant and Kyrie, but Kevin Durant was on the men because remember he had that Achilles injury because he was out, but So and now you got championship winning head coaches gone, and that's bizarre.
Do you think it got something to do with all these new owners, like ownership or something? Like it's not making any sense, like the way they move and stuff.
Well, the way this one was going to, one of them was going to have to go, either Calvin Booth or Mike Malone was going to have to go because they had different philosophies. Obviously, Malone really want to kind of have that depth and want to have like the vet leadership, and most coaches want like those veterans. But you look at like Calvin Booth, you can even just tell like how how they was trying to uplift Braun from Kansas,
right?
So you look at how they tried to essentially convey that we could get rid of Bruce Brown. Christian Braun could come in and kind of step up because he kind of had a little flashes in the NBA Finals, and you see how like they were trying to get younger, and you just kind of see like even like the clashing of that because you see some young talent go, and you have some that's that's there. And obviously you look at even like the whole Russell Westbrook thing, not necessarily saying he is at fault of this, but you just look at kind of essentially like the issues, I know they wanted it's like a cross between him and like Jalen Pickett, obviously the younger guy, they want to kind of get him in, but you think to yourself, if you're a coach, let me get some veteran guys, let me kind of develop a championship level type of team, and sometimes you have younger talent, sometimes that can kind of mess things up in a sense. So so they had fundamental differences, and I think they was at the point they weren't even speaking to each other. So it was gonna be either one, regardless. And I guess Kroenke was like, you know what, hell, I'm gonna get rid of both of y'all and start all over. As far as the coaches,
right? And and I know we got to move on but I really feel like when they played Minnesota, when they played the Lakers, they beat them. But you could tell Murray, they're not really winning without Murray. I think they should have eventually got somebody younger that could take some of the load off of Murray. But I really feel like once they lost, and the way they lost to Minnesota last year, I don't think they've really been the same. Joker has, of course, but I just don't feel like they've been the same since.
Yeah, and that's been part of the problem too with them. For sure. But yeah, man, no one is safe. No one is safe out here in these NBA streets.
Right.
It's man, but yeah. So from the association, we gotta talk a little college basketball. We start off obviously with a game on Sunday where the University of Connecticut women's won the national championship over South Carolina 82-59. Obviously, now UConn win their first national championship since 2016. It is championship number 12 for Gino Auriemma. Paige Beckers, 17 points. Sarah Strong and also Ozzie Fudd, they led with 24 points apiece. Sarah Strong, the super sensational freshman, 24, 15 rebounds, 10 for 15 field goals, man. Just a dominating performance from the UConn Huskies. Your thoughts on UConn winning the Natty?
Congratulations. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, look at the stats. Just seemed like South Carolina, just the chemistry wasn't only they fought, but it just seemed like once the lead got up, it just seemed like they, a little bit more anxiety. It was more one-on-one. They really wasn't moving the ball. Like right now, you got 18 UConn assists to 9. And that to me was the main thing. Like, they was moving the ball around and they just didn't rely on 3-point play. Whereas, they hit 4 for 17, UConn did, and South Carolina hit 4 for 16. They more or less, the field goal, UConn won was 48 to 49%. It just seemed like, man, once they got the lead hit there, they just didn't really have a plan or try to execute. They just, just got to the point they just start playing. You know what I mean? Like Strong was killing. Like, she's got a bright future. You look at it like, Paige had 17 points, and I was like, wow. So Fudd and Strong had 24. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really have much to say about this game. It just seemed like domination. It seemed like, I will say this. They talked to the South Carolina coach, and it seemed like there was maybe some leadership issues. You know what I mean? Whereas, which all comes with, what we probably gonna talk about a little bit later when it comes to the portal, because Edwards and Johnson had 10 points each. You know what I mean? Like, there was really no fight there. You know what I mean? So, congratulations to UConn, man. And Paige.
Yeah, I mean, it was a complete domination. It was crazy because, obviously I had UConn winning the national championship, but I had them beating Texas. I think, I actually had Texas beating South Carolina in the regional final, but, it's here nor there. Yeah, I mean, this is almost like a repeat of, they played each other on February the 16th. UConn came into South Carolina and beat them 82-59. Yeah, I mean, you just look at it. UConn had that big three, and they all stepped up. And I mean, they pretty much had they in the driver's seat for this game from start to finish. I think the lead rose up to like 26, and then it just went downhill from there. And then obviously there was some defensive laps. If you look at some of the games, you obviously look at some open shots on so many ends for AZ, what she did, and then also Sarah Strong, the freshman. She did an incredible job. You just look at UConn defense. You look at South Carolina starting 5 only had 25 points together as a unit. So you're not going to win a basketball game when your entire starting 5 combines of 25 points. You're not going to win football. I mean, you're not going to win basketball games in that nature. A huge shout out to UConn.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, like, got them moving the ball, like, Paige being like the star and being heard, and what I'm saying, and being able to put people in the right position. That's the main thing. I was like 9 assists to 8. I was like, it's like more seemed like it, but that's what happens when you get a lead. Like, you try to force it. You know what I mean? And you just got to say timeout, settle down, motivate your players. You know what I mean? And set some plays. Like, let's get it together. But defensive rebounds, man. It's just really, man, like open shots or put them in the right position and lay it up. Like, they shot almost 50%.
Yep. Yeah, they had no answer for UConn, and that's one thing too where it is what it is, and like you said, and this one thing, I'm kind of glad for Paige to get that national championship because now she can kind of because that was the biggest thing of her collegiate career, all the accolades, but didn't have the championship. So now she can sit at the greats at that UConn table and say, "Hey, I'm one of you guys. I got myself a Natty as well." So, and kudos to Gino. I know a lot of people aren't the biggest Gino Auriemma fans, but you got to respect what he's done. This is another one where you think to yourself, he's gone almost 10 years without winning a ring. So this was just a great effort by UConn winning this national championship. And it's one of the things I know a lot of people want to put Gino in that realm as far as one of the greatest coaches of all time. I mean, he's in there. I mean, you think to yourself, you winning 12 championships within a nearly 40-year period. I think he came to UConn in 1986. And I think they didn't win their first championship to 1995. So you really think to yourself, he has won 12 championships essentially in a 30-year period. So definitely huge shout out to Coach Gino Auriemma. And hey, man, you in that conversation for sure.
Right. Congratulations, man. Like I was watching the highlights and I was just like, I guess it'd be that way sometimes when the chemistry ain't there, but that's why you have timeouts, man. And sometimes, hey, it just seem like things ain't working, the calls ain't coming. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You always got next year.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll both be stacked for the most part. AZ's coming back. Obviously Sarah Strong will be there, and also Paige she'll be in Dallas next year. So they still got person at the end, and also South Carolina they'll be back. I know a lot of people, trying to put people in the portal that ain't in the portal yet, and I digress on that point. But South Carolina they'll be back. That's one thing about it all, and she's got a great. I think she got a few. As the SEC coaches, I'm mad because she's getting all these McDonald's All-Americans. I think she got a few McDonald's All-Americans are coming to Charleston. So so just continue to be mad that she's getting all these McDonald's All-Americans. That's always that's the hate around college basketball in certain respects. So
and like I said. Right. Like I said, they asked her about the portal and this, and that. And she looked like, yeah, it's got to be. She said, I have a talented group, but we need some leadership. She was putting out there what she needed. And I was thinking to myself, wow, when you at that position where you're winning championships and they paying you the money now, also, that means that they want results. You know what I mean? So that's one of the beautiful thing about that portal. Say, hey, I need this, I need that. You know what I mean? Because clearly that was one of the issues. They didn't. To me, I just felt like they didn't have which is important, man. In a team with somebody that really can just take over the game, or you know what I'm saying? Get to the free throw line. It just seemed like I didn't see that on South Carolina last night.
Yeah, she didn't have like the Aaliyah Boston's, who else? Wilson. I mean, but yeah, and but still a good season for UConn, even though I kind of knew this was going to happen. Obviously, that February 16th game against UConn was really telling. And I was like, they was playing each other again. I'm like,
right.
And then just UConn's run, and then you think they beat the number one overall seed in UCLA like they did Friday night, and it's like, this UConn's on the road, and no one can stop them at this point.
Right. But there's their time.
Yep. For sure. So now focusing on the men's, where the Florida Gators won their third national championship on Monday, beating Houston 65-63. A fantastic game. I think it was one of those games where it lived up to the hype. I know a lot of people was looking at Duke and Florida like me. I was thinking it was gonna be Duke and Florida, but this game did live up to the bill. Will Richards led Florida with 18 points. LJ Cryer had 19 for Houston. What was your thoughts on Florida winning that third national championship?
What I saw was Houston at first seemed like athletically was trying to intimidate Florida. And I think they kind of ran out of gas a little bit towards the end. Because, I mean, like Clayton, didn't have any points in the first half. But, cool about them is that the team still backed him up. And then when I seen in the second half, he just wasn't scoring. He was putting people in the right position. But let's just be honest, man. Let me see. Well, didn't they out rebound them like crazy? Yeah, like let me see. Yeah, like the defensive rebounds was crazy, man. Like where's it at? I'm sorry, y'all. Like I said, Florida 14 assists to 5, 32 rebounds. Houston had 24, and that's crazy. You know what I mean? But it was the free throws, like 17 for 21, and Houston had 19 for 14. That won the game. Everything else, Houston, when you look at their stats, Houston had it. So this is one of those things where you're dealing with a young team, and they were eventually playing not to lose. They didn't play to win. They did at first, but then as time went on, they started playing not to lose, and you can't do that. You know what I mean? Shout out to them. But I really think I told you I was gonna have a question, but I'm gonna let you speak first. But it just seemed like they changed the tempo of the game and those free throws, and then also Houston is not a turnover team, and they turned the ball over. I think 4 times in the last 3-4 minutes, and so that's what I mean. You're playing not to lose. You know what I mean? You got to play to win.
Yeah, I feel for Houston. I really, really feel for Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Them having a 12-point lead with 16 minutes, they had a 42 to 30 lead. They controlled the tempo for most of the game. They led the game for over 30 minutes.
Right.
It's just it's really heartbreaking itself. Florida finally took the lead in the final seconds of this game. The 2 turnovers by Emmanuel Sharp, obviously the first one, just the turnover with like 50-something seconds to go. That just happens. The ball just slips out of your hand. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Final play, and I feel for him. That play is just it's almost like when you really sit down and you think about it, because obviously he got the ball at the bottom of the logo, almost near half court, not half court, but like at the bottom of the logo. If he would have went out a little bit, I'm thinking about the court. So this is my left. All right. So if he would have been at the top of the key a little bit more to the left, because he got the ball like in the lower part of the logo, he would have, if he been at the top of the key, if he did pivot to dribble, if he would have just pivot and got that shot off, got the guy from Florida to bump you, get to the foul line, get 3 shots, Houston wins that basketball game. But I give Florida effort. I give Florida credit defensively for that play, because that was really a heads-up play, and that was kind of like an instinct. And it's kind of one of those things where if you're a Houston fan, and think to yourself, if you are over the age of maybe like 45 or 50, you literally had you could have seen a championship in 2 championships in 2 singular plays. If you go back to 1983 when they played the NC State,
mm-hmm.
the pass the pass is thrown to Wittenberg. It almost got stolen. It's almost to a point. If you go back and you look at, because remember he hit the Wittenberg turned around, hit the shot, and then Lorenzo Charles, RIP, got the tip in. But if you look at that play, it was almost stolen. Like literally, if the guy had maybe a fingertip, if his fingertip maybe a few inches longer, he would have stolen that ball, and they would have won that, and they probably would have had a dunk to cap off that game. Then this one, fast forward to Monday night, if he would have got that ball maybe about a few inches to the left, and more towards the top of the key, he might have had an open shot and could have won the game almost a la like a Chris Jenkins Villanova circa 2016.
Right.
And that's like, gosh, and I damn Houston, I know that's gotta hurt, especially considering the fact the effort on Saturday against Duke, where you were down by six points with like 30-some seconds to go, and you come back and win this game, and then you get here and fall short. And I feel for Kelvin Sampson. Like, he has really built this Houston team from the ground up. I mean, he's been there for 9 years, and he has persevered and gone through it all. And for him to fall this short, it's heartbreaking. That's like,
right.
Yeah, and poor Houston fans. Especially if you lived through the 1983 national championship, and then this national championship here in 2025, I feel for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a question. I didn't see the game, so I guess my question is, they was up 12, right? But the free throws is just a little weird to me. To be 17 for 21, Florida, 9 and 14 in Houston. Like, was the refs getting in the way, or?
No, I mean, I don't necessarily think it was it was weird, because I think they were kind of playing stuff to it. And I think, and plus Houston wasn't really quote unquote aggressive, because they were kind of in the lead. So you think so, and then obviously Florida was trying to kind of inch back. So obviously they were, because their shots really wasn't hitting, so they was kind of just more trying to get inside and try to get in. But
well, that's watch when I watch these games now, and I'll be like, okay, so what made them win? And you start seeing rebounds. You start seeing like majority of the team is getting like 8 to 11 rebounds, and I just looked at the free throws, and I was like, well, wow, you know what I mean? Because almost everything else, like 3-pointers, Houston had 6 for 25, Florida had 6 for 24. The field goal percentage, Florida's 39.6, Houston's 34.8. Houston, he hit more field goals, 24 out of 69, where Florida was 21 out of 53. Like, you just start looking at it and you start saying like everything went only that's one of the main things that was off was the free throws, So maybe I'm guessing, Florida just made an adjustment.
And it was more, because you think about it, more of a second half, more so of free throws, because nothing was really called in the first half, because I think Florida was 2 for 2, and then Houston was 1 for 2. So you really think second half Florida was 15-19, and then Houston was 8 and 12. So 8 for 12. So
right.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those where the second half, obviously, it got more physical, because obviously just the nature of the game, and because really you sit down and you really think to yourself, Houston really was like in a driver's seat for this game.
Right.
So
and that's what I saw, man. I was like, there was almost like they were trying to intimidate Florida in the beginning, alley-oops, block shots, this and that, and I was like, man, I said Florida about to play basketball. You know what I mean? Set screens and getting in there, passing the ball around, like, you know what I mean? And you got to understand, 12 points it's not like it used to be. Like everybody can shoot threes now, and and ones.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, man.
congratulations to Florida, though.
Yeah, I feel for Houston, man. But yeah, definitely huge shout out to Florida. Because you think to yourself, you're there was so close. And that's the thing about this type of stuff, because people are always like, oh, we'll be back. I'm like, you'll never know if you ever gonna get back to this.
Right.
Especially, obviously with Kelvin Sampson. I think he is 69.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then obviously with Coach Golden, he's 39. So it's kind of crazy how, the differences of age and what have you. But yeah. But yeah, congratulations to Houston. I mean not Houston, but to Florida, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the SEC basketball. People talk about SEC football. SEC basketball. We're gonna have 14 teams in the tourney this year.
Right.
SEC SEC about to take over both sports.
And youngest coach to win is he's the youngest coach to win NCAA championship? Second youngest.
And that's even more now. You add more to this craziness, because Jim Valvano, the late Jim Valvano, was the youngest. I think he was like 37. And who did he beat? Houston. What in the hell? You can't make this bitch up. I think he's the second youngest. I know Jimmy V was 37.
Well, you being a sports guy, like, and everybody was kind of complaining. Remember, we talked about no Cinderellas. How did you feel about the tournament and how it turned out? It was
great. And you had Cinderella. I mean, that not typically of that. Mm-hmm. But you have a McNeese State, beating Clemson, which I think people looked at Clemson. It's probably one of the best Clemson basketball teams we've seen in quite some time. I mean, to me, yes, it's good to have Cinderella that first weekend, but when we sit down and you think about when you get to Sweet 16, you got those, Thursday, Friday night matchups. Man, you're not trying to see, that type of basketball. I mean, just to keep it honest with everybody, I don't want to see a 16 seed make it to the Sweet 16, or even like when what was the team 2 years ago? Because Shaheem Holloway was their coach. Now he went to say is a team in New Jersey, because they made it to the final. They made it to the Final Four in 2022, because Carolina beat them.
I can't remember.
What was his name? Was it no? Let me see, because it wasn't Fairleigh Dickinson. It was, because it was a dude. Remember, it was the dude looked like one of the characters off of Martin and Accountant. Oh man.
Well, Davidson, was it?
It was because it was a team from New Jersey. Because I know that coach was Shaheem Holloway. Shoot, who was there? Because Shaheem Holloway, it was. Or was it in 2023? I forgot which one. Because who made it? Who was the season? Gonzaga. Who did they make it? No, they made it to the Elite Eight. Who was that team? I know Carolina beat them in the regional final. Because I'm gonna get this right, because I'm gonna figure this out. St. Peter's.
Okay.
St. Peter's, yeah.
Who do we know that played for Loyola, Maryland? Was that Hank Gathers?
That was Loyola Marymount in LA, yeah.
Okay. Marymount. All right. I know I wasn't tripping. That's my bad.
Yeah. I think overall it was a great tournament. Obviously, it was good basketball. Obviously, if you look at like the Final Four, obviously all the number one seeds made it. And yeah, you definitely want to see like Duke and Houston, and then obviously I did love the Florida and Auburn, because you wanted to see who was going to kind of come out of that matchup. And to me, if you are a basketball guy, you like basketball, I think this is a good one. But if you are the one that's looking for that Cinderella, this wasn't the year for you. But to me personally, I think it was a good tournament, despite not having those, the weird, because the only thing I like for me, it's cool during the week, like the round of 64, or like, that first weekend in the tournament. It's cool, but like you said, you think to yourself, and it was, obviously I did like when George Mason made it to the Final Four, obviously, when BCU made it, Loyola Chicago at time when they made it. But it was still overall good tournament though, for sure.
Yeah. It seemed like I don't really hear too many people complain. I think everybody was genuinely satisfied this year.
Yeah, because you think to yourself, if you have those, those darlings, it get to a point where you're just like, all right, enough of this. Like even like when McNeese State, they found love, ran to a buzzsaw in Purdue. And it's like, okay,
right,
great story for the weekend. Now, obviously, Will Wade's at NC State, and Amir Khan also went with him, the famed student manager with him as well. And definitely huge shout out to him. I know people was hating on him, but hey, get your NIL money. Get it while you can. He raking in some NIL money.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was St. Peter's. That's who it was. That's crazy. Okay. St. Peter's made it to a regional final.
Hey, I know we got to move on to number. Did you know that Mike Malone was head of men's basketball at the University of Richmond?
Mike Malone? When?
Don't do that, Coach. That ain't even cool. We on air.
No, but
I'm joking.
No, I was going to say.
No, he was director. 98, 99. He was director of men's basketball at UVA.
You said UVA?
Yeah, University of Richmond. University of Virginia. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, UVA. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that.
Ain't that crazy? Yeah, that's why I said. Once I looked at all his stuff, I said, "Oh, he's highly respected." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, think about it, like you said, his dad, was coach. So, yeah, he's one of those. He's up there. Yep. But yeah. He was around in Cleveland back in the day. He was instrumental in the growth of the Cleveland Cavaliers once upon a time.
And the Warriors. They
Said
said when he left, they said that it really hurt them that when he left. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, he's gonna get. You ever thought that some of these coaches want to be a GM or something?
Yeah, because you really think yourself, I'm really not surprised like people haven't done like the Steve Kerr route. Went from like a GM, and that's crazy to think like Steve Kerr has done it all. Like as far as a player, obviously broadcasting, then went from there to become the GM of the Suns, and then from there, then became a coach with the Warriors, and
Right.
And lived happily ever after.
He should take Adam Silver's job.
Adam could be next. I mean,
seriously, I'm when you sit there and you think about it, you know what I'm saying? He could get it from both ends. Like, you know what I'm saying? He done did everything. Like, why? Might as well.
That's the next thing. I mean, he's already been an executive. I mean, but yeah, some of it too, because some of it taking the route, because even like a Brad Stevens is kind of taking the route. Which, and the funny thing about it is, it saved the Boston Celtics in a strange but bizarre way, where he knew. I guess he probably knew at the time, hey, he's reached his ceiling with his team, and he went upstairs and to his credit, hired two great coaches. Then they win a championship for sure.
Right. So, I have one more question before we move on. I know we got to do this one. Yeah. I got one more question. You being a Michael Jordan fan and a Chicago Bulls fan, how important do you really feel that Phil Jackson was?
Oh, extremely important. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's He's the reason why they won championships. I mean, that's the thing about
Right.
all of it, because he created this offense essentially to make Jordan trust his teammates. Because obviously, you think about it, the Doug Collins days where he's defense player of the year, this and third. But that man was averaging a little over 30 points a game, during his tenure with Doug Collins. And now, you have that. He's instrumental. You think about it. He did that twice. He did that in Chicago, and he also did it in LA, because, it's to a point where, you think to yourself, what he did with that, with that Bulls team, and then what he did with that Lakers team. And they're another team where they were fractured. I mean, you think to yourself, like a Dale Harris, they weren't going to win a championship with Dale Harris, because Dale Harris was, RIP Kobe, but he put Kobe, like, he didn't want Kobe to even play. Like, and lo and behold, he's just second best player, and you want him to play, and you giving Eddie Jones more minutes than Kobe Bryant. Like, I know that sounds crazy present day. That sounded crazy even in 1997.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. But when you sit down and think to yourself, it's
the reason I'm asking, because the Joker, they're looking at, he may get his third MVP and all this, what he's done. And if you pay attention to all the rest of these MVPs in the last probably 6-7 years, I guess you could say, Harden, Giannis, and all these guys, and they end up getting, they just don't end up being the same. So I'm just looking at it like, I mean, you could even look at Mike and Cole. You know what I mean? They wasn't the same after Phil left. They probably still could knock down some shots, but when it came to championships, no sir.
Yeah. And then I forgot to even talk about his second act in LA, because remember, he had two acts.
Yes.
Because they won the two championships at the tail end in 2009 and 2010.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And you think to yourself, and the only really, you think to yourself, okay, well, Shaq won one, but that was under Pat Riley. And that's another one where.
Right.
Yeah. So you think to yourself, yeah, coaching matters, especially when it comes to winning championships. Yes, they still would be great, all-time great players.
Yeah.
Like Jordan probably still would have been a 30-point plus per game scorer if Phil Jackson got there. And I think the same thing for Kobe. I don't necessarily think Kobe might have been in LA doing what MJ would have done in Chicago, but he would have went somewhere and would have been lighting the league up.
Right.
But championship-wise, it's a difference for sure.
I mean, even Giannis, like, look at Giannis. Like, even though Giannis is still a beast, but it's like, I mean, look at the 76ers and just look at how everything is starting to go down. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just was thinking about that earlier, wanted to ask you that question, because you really, to me, everybody talk about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Don't know everybody ever really talk about Phil Jackson.
For sure. Yep. But they'll know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because he legit. So, speaking of coaching, we got to talk about Grambling State's head coach and Mickey Joseph. So, we're going to talk about that momentarily. So, and I thought this was a very interesting, obviously, I got it from a TikTok video, but then I also did some research on myself about this topic itself. So, Grambling State head coach Mickey Joseph, and this is an article that we got from campussports.net. The author is Dennis, so we'll just do a little excerpt of his article. The transfer portal cuts both ways. Both FCS programs get hit especially hard when they lose their talent to bigger schools. It's a tough pill to swallow, and when developing hidden gems, only to watch them walk out the door to Power 4 programs. Grambling State's Mickey Joseph gets it. He understands the business of college football roster management, but he's proposing an interesting solution that might ease the pain, a buyout system. And this is Mickey Joseph in quotes. Coaches have been doing it for years, so we wouldn't get mad at when these kids make decisions to take care of their family. Joseph said on social media. But I also think there's a need to be a buyout. If they move up from me to a group of 5 or power 5, I should get kind of a compensation for that. So NCAA, if you're listening to me, I need a buyout. So, close quote. What are your thoughts on Mickey Joseph proposing the idea of getting a buyout if one of his players leave to greener pastures in a Power 5 or the FBS world? What are your thoughts?
I think I'm gonna say really it's a positive thing because everybody would win. You know what I mean? In some type of way. When you're talking about a school that because most likely we all know the lower schools are most likely going to get they're going to recruit and get these athletes in their school, and then we know once those athletes do well, they have something to stand on where they can get into the portal. But the issue is, like some people say this, when they get into the portal, sometimes they don't get picked up. You know what I mean? And that's my only negative. What if a kid goes but he doesn't get picked up? You know what I mean? Or he doesn't go to where he think he's going to go. But I think that anything is possible. I think that the whole system, we know for sure it's not perfect. So that's what they're trying to figure out. These bright ideas to help the situation from some of these coaches. It's great. So I'm not going to knock it. You know what I mean? To me, it's also with everything that we talked about today. It's a business. And I think what these young men is they got to understand that you're in the business of entertainment also. And you know, that's all part of it. So if you're going to leave from here and, you know, for you to go there, it got to be a buyout. I'm not knocking it. You know what I mean? I think it's a great idea, but I still think there will be some tweaks there because, we still don't want the athlete to get the bad end of it. You know what I mean? Because in the end of the day, it's really about them. If you don't have them, you don't have anything. You know what I mean?
I think I actually agree with him. I think there should be a buyout, similar to like coaches. I mean,
right?
This how I think you would do it, how this would be implemented. I don't think this will be somewhat of a penalty on the actual player itself. It'll be actually something that's going to be attached to the actual offer itself. Okay. So like Grambling State. So just imagine if Grambling State. So they're at FCS. So they're championship. So they're FCS level team, and then FBS is like D1 football. Well, not D1, but you know what I mean, like as far as Power 5.
Right.
So if the Grambling State quarterback decides to leave, because what's going to end up happening is he's going to get an NIL evaluation. So we'll know how much he will command in the NIL world.
Right.
So I'm going to just give, and it's just some numbers to kind of, because obviously the evaluation will be higher now because just things are now. So say for instance, if this quarterback from Grambling State wanted to go to an FBS school or a Power 5 school, and its NIL value is $1 million. I think what can happen is Grambling should receive in the price range of 5 to 10% of that person's NIL value. So say for instance, if this guy goes, he's $1 million. I think the university Grambling should get at least if the 5% range would be $50,000. The highest 10% is $100,000. So my thing is, you don't penalize the kid. The kid doesn't pay.
Right.
The guy don't pay for it. So NCAA say, hey, okay, and I'm just gonna give examples of Grambling, and then this guy wants to go to Colorado. Just to give an example.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado should pay for that quarterback the $1 million that he gets it for, and then pay the school either that 5 to 10% range. I say give or take in that range. More so I just want to give it numbers, but it could be probably low on the lower end, 5 to 10%. But we just say if it's 5%, Colorado should give the quarterback $1 million and then give Grambling $50,000 or whatever, 500. It'll be 50,000 if we do 5%.
Right.
Because at least with their and obviously I'm just giving like just a number, because obviously the guys getting evaluated for 3 or 4 times as much as I'm talking about in value. So that can give them enough money where they can use either for like the NIL fund or just for the university itself. So it kind of gives them incentives to build up these guys, knowing, hey, if you have a good job, and that's one of the things where they can kind of level the playing field in a sense. Well, hey, I can give you maybe $50,000 this year, but God, just imagine if you can go on the other level and get 4 or 5 times much. But then if I lose you, I can still get some money that can help me help the program out. It can help for anything. So, I can absorb some of the operational costs with that, or even get to a point where we can build enough bank where we can actually create like an NIL fund and pay some of these guys. So I love the idea. I definitely think that it should be implemented, because just like the coaches, if a coach leaves, it's a buyout. Like we talked about Deion Sanders last week. If a team prides him away at a certain point of the year, certain points of his contract, the team that wants Deion Sanders is going to have to pay his salary plus the buyout.
Right.
And I think that's if we're going to do it for the coaches, I think we should do it for the players.
Right. And I think I'm with you. Once you broke it down into detail, that makes perfect sense. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of money being played with. A whole lot of money.
And Grambling could definitely use that that 50,000 to 100,000 per player, because I'm just saying off $1 million. So just imagine if the guy's worth $5 million, obviously that 5 to 10% window is going to increase.
Right.
So just imagine, because and not necessarily that you're going to have these type of instances every year, but you can at least have a little bit of pocket change,
right,
for the university. And I'm not, it's not going to be enough for them to kind of tip the scale and compete with the FCS level, but it's enough to keep the lights on for the university, to kind of cover the operational costs in a sense. And then I think as these players progress, especially if you're like a team like a Grambling, if you start producing these type of talents year in and year out, then you get to a point where I think you can potentially have enough money where you can eventually have an NIL fund and can have that, because most of these FCS, well, especially more like the ACBU type, we'll put it that way, they have struggled financially. So just thinking to yourself, like, if you get a quarterback and he decides to go to a prominent program, a Power 5 program, hey, that's all the more incentive for me as a coach to develop you, to get you ready for the next level, because there's going to be an incentive for me. And I understand, yes, you do want to have the best interest in the players' hands, but we all know, like you said, this is a business. We all know we're here, yes, to help develop, but why not us benefit from your development?
Right. And that's great. This is like when I was telling you, I was speaking to a family member of mine, and like right after they had a great season last year, and he had to do meetings with all these different players, and almost all of them saying they wanted to get into the portal. You know what I mean? And I was like, he was like, it was a lot of work. And I was like, man, you should already be looking for that anyway. You know what I mean? Because once they do well, if they get a chance to be able to go to another, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah. And then it ended up kind of show the players' worth, because
Right.
if I have to give you X amount of money, and then I have to give your old school money,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing about it is, with great reward comes with great responsibility.
Right.
And that's gonna be the sticking point, because I'm like, yes, this sounds great in theory, but this kind of one of those things where it can get backfire, because it's almost like, you have an attitude, you think the grass is green on the other side,
Right.
then you tied in with this money. Look, you here, we bought you out of your situation and where you at. It's almost like, it's funny, like it's almost like when the credit, like with the card, with the cell phone carriers. Oh, we'll buy your old phone and give you a new one.
Mm-hmm.
This is what
Right.
this reminds me of. It's like,
I
but
mean, it's all part of it though, man. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
Because like,
sure.
if like New Mexico, they bring some people in and they do well, you're not looking at those schools, and then you end up recruiting, and which, like, for instance, because a lot of the schools might even just be recruiting locally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you get something special, and then they start getting more experience with being on the road and things of that nature, and then they do so well, player of the year in the division or something like that. And then they end up, because a lot of times some of them kids might go to another school, big school, and this and that, but then not really ready for the spotlight, not really ready for all those things that come with going to those big schools. They might want to come back.
And that's the thing where, when
Right.
there's money tied in this,
Right.
it's one of those things where, be careful what you ask for. This could be a good thing, but it can go sour. I can see it go sour real quick. Kind of almost like how I think the NIL is, because it's not regulated. It's
Right.
really literally the wild, wild west. That's why I think it's important for them for them to have a commissioner down the road.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think they could get a commissioner for all 100 plus FBS schools or what have you. I would just say have a like a because they do have commissioners already for these specific conferences. And then it's just like, so it's kind of one of those where they need, so it's going to be really interesting on how this all plays out. And then, like you said, because you can't turn back. I mean, once the money is there, I'm not going to spend, $1 million to get you, and then got to pay your old school 100,000. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to play. You're going to be committed to this university. So
Right. I think it's very flawed. That's why I said, I'm happy that they're talking and they're thinking, because it's a very flawed situation.
yeah.
System. That's you know what I mean. It's very flawed, but they'll get it. They'll get it, and it's eventually probably gonna be structured a little bit better, because it's all over the place right now.
Yeah, because it's just not regulated. It happened so quick. That's the thing about it. Where I think the rule got I don't know when, like, it got affected June 1st, July 1st, 2021, and it just spread like wildfire. It was something that was kind of thought about like 5 years ago, and said, and then all of a sudden, everything, all the wheels came into motion, and then it just happened, like quickly. So, and then at that point, it was already a fire already, and then the fire ain't been contained. But
Right.
and I think, and I've always stressed the fact they need a commissioner for
Right.
college, college sports, and I think that's gonna come down the turnpike, especially how things are going now with, especially like this college football playoff, and now all these conferences kind of merging together, and so yep. So we'll put a bow on this week's Couch Coach Live, man. Who gets this week's game ball for you?
Who did I put down for the game ball? I'm basically gonna get a game ball to the Florida Gators coming back. You know what I mean? After and winning the Natty, they third one, and I'm gonna give it to Gil's Arena for hitting 1 million subs. One of my favorite podcasts. Shout out to the Florida Gators.
Yeah, man, definitely got to give a huge shout out. We always champion our salt and pepper athletes. Any athlete that has a speck of black hair, but drenched in silver hair. Our older athletes here that are around the globe that have been born in the 1900s. Especially this one of the great members of the the salt and pepper gang in sports, Alex Ovechkin. Great job on Sunday. He broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time career goal mark. He's now sitting top as the all-time goal scorer in NHL history with 895 of them things. And we talking about that now on a Wednesday. The Capitals are back in action tomorrow. So it might be 895 and counting if you listen to this podcast at your leisure this week. So
congratulations.
Shout out to Ovi, man. Man, shout out to him. A proud member of the Salt and Pepper gang. Rocking that gray hair. Keep it, Ovi. Don't dye it. We gotta stay strong out here. We don't dye it, yo. I'm telling you, we can't. Don't give in. I've been thinking about it real hard. But I can't give in, man. Because we champion salt and pepper athletes.
Right. Everybody keep gritting on me because I got like 6 gray hairs in my chest. I'm like, look, even my baby mom. I was like, I got all this gray. I was like, I got like 6 chin hairs. She was like, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I know, right? I know that just for men be tempted. I be in that store looking like, all you gotta do is so easy. Not even got like a mascara type. All you gotta do is just roll it in. You ain't even gotta brush it. You could just roll that thing in and it'll take all your grays out. But nah, I ain't doing that. I'm gonna let it be.
Right.
I'm gonna let it be. I mean, hey, I'll be the Silver Fox in about 15 years. So hey, I just it is what it is. Definitely huge shout out to Ovi, man. And that was a great moment. That was a great moment to see him eclipse that record.
Right.
It was fitting against the Islanders too. And then because I was like, all right, because at first I was like, okay, well the game is on because the game came on early on TNT. I was like, I'm gonna watch this game before the women's national championship, and I was like, okay. And then lo and behold, it's crazy because I was on the sofa. I was getting ready to turn to go to my refrigerator to get something to drink, and then this man got the record. I was like, man, I'm telling you, man, something told me sit on that sofa and watch history instead of grabbing that drink. Instead of grabbing that cold drink. But so we'll round out tonight's Couch Coach Live. Final thoughts on social media. What you got?
Oh man, great show. I love the lineup. Man, appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? I'll be here. Yeah, I'm not gonna be here next week. Actually, no, I'll talk to you after. I should be though.
Sure.
I should be.
Yeah.
I should be able to. But yeah, man, just thanks for the support and all that, And social media?
Yeah, social media. Yeah.
DT Morgan 78 Instagram, Deshaun Morgan Facebook.
Yeah, man. Once again, another great show. Pretty much Facebook, Twitter, Instagram on the Couch Coach Live. Check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, right there. And also just check us out on YouTube as well on the Couch Coach Live. And check out the website, couchcoachlive.com.
Right.
And that puts a bow on episode 336. And we'll catch you guys on episode 337. And we're out.
You're welcome.